In this video, we're diving into the dark history of Maple Hill Cemetery, where restless spirits roam and forgotten tragedies linger. From the haunted dead children's playground to the ghostly lady in white, we'll reveal all the chilling piece. But first, let's uncover the history behind this haunted resting place. Welcome to our series uncovering real horror stories from across the USA. So, switch off the lights, close the door, it's about to get eerie. Maple Hill Cemetery, nestled in Huntsville, Alabama, is the oldest and largest cemetery in the state. Established in 1822. Spanning over 100 acres, it's the eternal home to over 80,000 souls, governors, soldiers, pioneers, and ordinary citizens, each with their own story. Yet beneath its historic charm lies a chilling truth. During the 19th and early 20th centuries, the cemetery grew rapidly, spurred by devastating outbreaks of disease like yellow fever and the Spanish flu. Entire families were lost, their graves often left unmarked, memories erased, but perhaps not forgotten. The dead children's playground is a place meant for fun and laughter, but its name sends chills down the spine. It sits inside Maple Hill Cemetery and isn't just a spot for visitors to rest. It's the center of one of Huntsville's darkest stories. The first stories began after the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic, which caused many deaths worldwide, including in Huntsville. It is said that many children who died from the illness were buried in Maple Hill Cemetery. Some believe their spirits stayed behind, finding comfort in the playground where they could relive happy moments from their childhood. But the strange events go beyond simple ghost stories. Visitors say they hear laughter high-pitched like a child's, but unsettling. At night, the swings move back and forth as if invisible hands are pushing them. Those who dare to stay past midnight often hear soft giggles and quiet whispers like children playing hide and seek just out of sight. But here's where the story becomes even darker. Some believe the spirits aren't just children who died from disease. A local story speaks of a serial killer who targeted children many years ago. Though there is no proof of this in history, the tale lives on in whispers of unmarked graves and restless souls. Could this explain the strange shadows and eerie voices many say they've seen and heard? Paranormal researchers visit the dead children's playground with cameras and recording tools. Their discoveries are unsettling: glowing balls of light caught on film, recordings of faint voices, and sudden drops in temperature that cannot be explained. Believe in ghosts shared an experience that chilled everyone who heard it. They were sitting on a bench near the swings late at night, staring into the dark. Suddenly they felt something cold grab their hand. When they looked down, nothing was there, only a freezing cold feeling that stayed long after they ran away. Yet some people wonder, are these stories just the result of active imaginations? But the dead children's playground is just one part of Maple Hill Cemetery. As the sun sets over, there begins one connected to America's most haunting war. During the Civil War, Huntsville was caught in the middle of the conflict. Maple Hill became the burial ground for hundreds of soldiers, both Confederate and Union. Many of them didn't die in battle, but from sickness and accidents in the camps around the town. The Confederate section of the cemetery has 187 marked graves. But here's the eerie part: no one knows who is buried where. The names of these soldiers are remembered on scattered memorials, but their exact graves are a mystery. And then there are the unmarked graves. When Union forces took over Huntsville, they also buried their dead in Maple Hill. In 1867, most of these graves were moved to Chattanooga National Cemetery, but not all. Some believe mistakes were made, graves were missed, and bodies were left behind. Now, visitors claim to see ghostly figures near the oldest parts of the cemetery, where the Union graves once were. One groundskeeper said he often heard the faint sound of boots marching in step late at night. It was like a parade, he said, but no one was there. People report hearing phantom footsteps, seeing shadowy figures moving between headstones, and feeling sudden cold spots in the Civil War sections of the cemetery. There's something especially unsettling about unmarked graves. Some believe that without recognition, these spirits are left in pain, searching for someone to notice them. But what happens when the dead want to be remembered? Visitors near the Confederate Memorial have reported strange things, whispers coming from nowhere, and the feeling of being watched. One historian said he once took a photo of the site and later saw a shadow in the picture, a shadow that wasn't there before. Then there's the legend of the soldier without a face. People say a man in a torn uniform sometimes appears to those visiting late at night. His face is blurry, almost erased by time. Those who see him say he points to the ground, as if trying to tell them something. But no one stays long enough to find out what. The Civil War left deep marks on Huntsville, but Maple Hill Cemetery carries the heaviest burden. Are these spirits reaching out, or are these strange events just echoes of the past? And as we uncover more mysteries of the cemetery, another figure waits. A woman in white, wandering the graves, her story full of sorrow. Who is she, and what is she searching for? Imagine this, it's a quiet night, and you're walking along the narrow paths between the graves. Suddenly you see her, a woman wearing a long white dress, her filled with sadness. She moves with purpose, silently gliding among the tombstones. People who followed her say she often disappears near the oldest graves, as if she's looking for something or someone she has lost. Local stories say she might be a grieving mother, endlessly searching the cemetery for her child. Others think she could be a bride whose life was tragically cut short before her wedding day. Shadow figures. These are dark, human-shaped shadows that people have seen moving quickly. Like the lady in white, these figures bring a strong feeling of fear. People have said they feel the air suddenly grow heavy, as if they're being watched or even followed. One visitor walking through the cemetery at dusk said they saw a shadow figure crouching by an old monument. As they turned away in fear, they felt cold breath on the back of their neck. When they looked again, the figure was gone. But shadows and ghosts aren't the only things haunting Maple Hill. Paranormal investigators have captured strange sounds called EVPs, or electronic voice phenomena. These recordings have picked up whispers and cries from nowhere. Some voices say things like "help me" or "leave now." One recording even caught the sound of a child's laughter, which felt chillingly out of place among the silent graves. Then there's the weeping woman. Though not as famous as the lady in white, she has been seen near the Confederate section of the cemetery. People report hearing soft crying and seeing a ghostly figure kneeling by a grave. But when they get closer, the figure vanishes, leaving only the faint sound of her cries behind. What makes Maple Hill Cemetery truly terrifying is the feeling that it's alive with history. Every shadow, every sound feels heavy with the stories and sorrows of the past. And yet, the story isn't over. The horror vault of the cursed mausoleum brings even darker questions. Stay with me, we're about to uncover the final, most chilling chapters of Maple Hill Cemetery's ghostly story. At the center of many of these stories is the Erskine Mausoleum. Built in the 1930s by Albert Russell Erskine, a wealthy businessman, the mausoleum was meant to be the final resting place for his family. But tragedy struck before it was even used. In 1933, during the Great Depression, Erskine lost everything and took his own life. He was buried in the mausoleum, but locals say his troubled spirit never left. Visitors have described feeling a heavy, suffocating energy near the mausoleum, as if they're being watched. One paranormal investigator reported hearing faint whispers from inside the crypt, even though no one else was around. Others say they feel as though they're being drawn toward the structure by an unseen force. Some people believe the Erskine Mausoleum is cursed and brings bad luck to those who stay near it for too long. Many dismiss this as superstition, but strange accidents have kept the story alive. One man became sick just hours after touching the mausoleum door. Another said his camera stopped working while trying to take pictures, only to start working fine once he left. Teens in Huntsville often dare each other to spend the night at Maple Hill Cemetery. They tell stories of ghostly hands grabbing their ankles, strange lights that follow them, and unseen voices calling their names. Many who've stayed after dark swear they've seen or felt something they can't explain. Still, Maple Hill Cemetery is more than its ghost stories. Its mysteries carved into the headstones and whispered through the trees may never be fully understood. Maple Hill Cemetery feels almost like a living being, one possessed by many restless spirits, each with its own story to tell. So, which story left you with chills? Let us know. And don't forget to subscribe. We bring you only the real stories that will keep you coming back for more.